If you guys want coins for FC24, make sure you check out MMOEXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a lovely 5% discount. What's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video. Now in today's video guys, we have some tactics and player instructions for a really great formation if you are struggling, this being the 4-4-2. Now if you're new to this game, if you're getting it today, the 4-4-2 will be a very great option because it is very balanced and it is not too difficult to grasp. And even if you've had the game for over a week now and you're still struggling to get those results going, the 4-4-2 is a great option. So just before we get started guys, please be sure to drop this a like as it does really help me out, and don't forget to sub to the channel so you never miss out on these videos. And with all that aside guys, let's get started. Alright then guys, so starting off with the custom tactics for the defensive style, we have this on balance. Now the reason we have this on balanced as opposed to the pressure tactics is because it does give you better control over your defense. So when you want to press your opponent and be aggressive, you're able to do that, and then when you want to be a bit more passive and drop back, you can also do that. So it does give you the control that the other settings do not give you. Now moving on to the width guys, I like to have this on about 42. Anything over 40 just about is pretty good. I would say you don't want to go towards like the 50 area because the width is a bit too high. Now the reason we have the width on about 42 is because we want our defense to be primarily narrow and compact, which will stop our opponents being able to run and pass right through the middle of us. The reason we don't have the width any lower though is because it's still important to maintain some of the width to the formation, so if an opponent tries an attack down the wing, we can also cover those areas. Now moving on to the depth guys, anything over 45 is good I would say, but I'm currently just using this on 48. The reason you want this to be above 45 is because you get this automatic pressure thing which allows you to win the ball back a lot easier. If you have your depth below 45, then your team is very passive and it can actually be more difficult to win the ball back. You don't want to handicap yourself. Make sure your depth is just above 45 so it does help you out a lot more. Now moving on to build up play guys, we have this on balance. This is because I find it to be the most varied form of build up in the game. When you have this on balance, you can pick and choose when and where you use each form of build up. For example, when you want to play slowly, you're able to do that. When you want to play a bit quicker, you're also able to do that. So it allows you to have that variety that the other settings don't give you, because for example, if you're using slow build up, you're always going to have to build up slowly. You can't pick and choose. So balanced is the best for that reason. Moving on to chance creation guys, I think it's very important yet again this year to use direct passing. This is because it is the most meta option in the game. Basically your attackers will make a lot more varied runs, making it easier to create all those chances. Your attackers will also bunch up against the opposition defenders, so you can isolate a specific defender and do a 1 versus 1 play to again create more space and as a result make more chances. So direct passing, very important in my opinion. Now moving on to the attacking width guys, because the 4-4-2 is kind of narrow and it's also wide at the same time, it's a bit of a weird one. I kind of just go bang in the middle with like 45. You can go up to 50 if you want, but I like to have the width on 45 because I don't want the width to be too high to the point where my players feel very far apart from each other, and at the same time I don't want them to feel too close together either. So 45 is really nice and balanced and it seems to do me very well. For players in box guys, I have this on 4. This is so we can get a few players into the penalty area to help us finish off those chances, but if we lose the ball, we're not always going to get counter-attacked because we haven't overcommitted everyone. For corners and free kicks, I leave these both on 1, but it is a preference thing. You can up it if you like. Now the types of players you want to use in this formation is completely up to you really, but it will affect how you play with the formation. So starting off with the 2 strikers, what I like to do is go for a more clinical finisher in one of the positions, this being Darwin Nunez in my case. This is somebody that will always finish off those chances but maybe lacks that technical ability, so somebody that is just an out-and-out goal scorer. And then in the other striker position, I like to go for a more creative player. This is just to make it a bit easier to build up the play and stops us being so predictable in the attack, because if we just use 2 out-and-out strikers in these positions, we'd be very limited when we're going forward. We'd always just have to lump in crosses and play through balls. We don't have this extra player to help link up the play, so I like to have a creative player here just to help me out with the build up a bit more. Now moving on to the the right mid and the left mid, guys, I suggest using like winger style players in these positions. You're going to want players that are very good dribbling, very good pace and good passing, really. It doesn't really matter about the defending stats. You just want to make sure that these are good winger style players. But again, don't worry too much about the defensive stats. Just make sure they're very good wingers in these positions. For the two centre mids, I like to go for a balance between the two. So in the left centre mid spot, I like to go for a more defensive minded player. This is more like a CDM, somebody that will always stay back and make us defensively sound. So somebody with a medium high work rate is great in this position, as you get the maximum contribution in the defense and they're not too bothered about going forward. In the other centre mid spot, I like to go for a more box to box style player. This is somebody that will attack and defend and act as a bit of a transitional player from the defense to the attack to help you out when you're going forward. They kind of do a bit of everything, and it is very useful to have one player like this in the midfield. But if you want to use two defensive players, that is also okay. For the fullbacks, guys, you have a lot of freedom. You can use two defensive fullbacks if you like, two attacking fullbacks, or a bit of a balance where you have one attacking fullback and one defensive fullback. But again, it is completely up to you. As for the centre backs, guys, these just need to be full meta players. These are players that are obviously tall, medium high work rate, strong, basically good in really important defensive areas. The keeper, however, doesn't really matter. You can just use whoever you like. Moving on to the player instructions, guys. At this stage in the game, I don't really use very complex instructions because I feel like the game is much easier when you don't restrict all the players to do specific things at all times. So I will explain in a bit more detail when we get to it. But starting off with the strikers, I just have them both on stay central. Now, this instruction is actually important in my opinion because we don't want these strikers drifting out wide. They are our strikers, so we do want them to be in the central areas where they should be. We do not need them drifting out into those wider positions, which is why stay central works. I also have them on mixed attack as opposed to get in behind, as I feel like you get a lot more out of these players that way. They make much more versatile movements. Sometimes they'll come short for a pass, other times they'll run in behind. It just seems to be a lot more free flowing and a bit easier to attack as a whole. If you want to put one of your strikers on getting behind, that is also okay, but again, it is completely up to you. Now moving on to the right mid and the left mid, guys, I have them on come back on defense, cut inside and get in behind. The right mid and the left mid are the only players I like to have a lot of instructions on, and we'll talk about that now. So we have them on come back on defense so that they always sit in the correct position when we don't have the ball. It just makes it a bit easier to defend, and then when we win the ball back, they're a bit closer to the rest of the team. So come back on defense, very useful. We have them on cut inside so they make those inverted runs into those narrow spaces to get closer to the strikers. You'll see what we do with our fullbacks to make this even more effective, but cut inside helps these players get into those pockets of space to cause more trouble. We also have them on getting behind so they utilize their pace to make those runs and really bother the defenders. So come back, cut inside and get in behind. For the left centre mid, the more defensive minded midfielder, I have him on stay back, cover centre. We have him on stay back so he doesn't bother about going forward because he is a more defensive minded player, and then we also have him on cover center so he does defend those central areas, which is very important. For the right center mid, the more box to box style player, I have him on balanced attack and cover center. We have him on balanced attack because, like I said, he is a more box to box style player, so we don't want to restrict him to always defending. We want him to attack when it's appropriate. We want him to do a bit of everything. We also have him on cover center so he does defend those central areas like he is supposed to. Now for the fullbacks, guys, on your more attacking fullback, I suggest putting him on balanced attack and overlap. Now the reason I suggest this is because, like I said, with this right mid and left mid, we have them on the cut inside instruction, which means they're going to be making those runs into the narrow areas and leaving a lot of space on the wing. So when we put this player on balanced attack and overlap, they're going to be able to utilize that space on the wing by making those overlapping runs. So we'll have attackers in both the narrow areas and the wide areas. So it is very, very useful, guys. On the other fullback, my more defensive one, I just have him on stay back and overlap. This is so we always have at least 3 defenders back at a time, but when we send him on a run forward, he will overlap for the same reasons as I explained for the right back, where he will add extra width to the team. If you feel a bit uncomfortable, you can have them both on stay back, or if you're feeling really brave, you can have them both on balanced attack. It is completely up to you. As for the centre backs, guys, I have them both on stay back. You don't really want to touch anything with them. And as for the keeper, if you want to put him on comes for crosses and sweeper, that is okay, but don't worry if you don't want to. But yeah, guys, that is everything for the video. If you have enjoyed or found this useful, please be sure to drop this video a thumbs up. It does really help me out. Sub to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on a notification so you do actually get notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.